Hey, what is up guys? It is Harrison Barron, and in today's video I want to talk to you guys about how to make your content way more interesting, or at least keep people either searching for it or watching it or consuming it longer and longer. How do I know anything about this? I used to have a podcast, and most podcasts were between an hour and a half to really about 3 hours long. I have a blog that is getting thousands of clicks at this point. It is 240 articles, and I have a YouTube channel with 180 videos now, or just over 180. So this is something I spend quite a bit of time on, and really, how do you get people to your stuff? How do you get people to consume it? How do you keep it interesting? And I want to answer all of these questions. Now, let's just assume, and we're going to assume really hard right now, that you are making some kind of content. Doesn't matter if it's videos, doesn't matter if it's blogs, doesn't matter if it's TikToks, but how do you make it interesting? Well, most people just think like, oh, I have an interesting thing. It just has to be interesting by nature. And that is where you're wrong. I think a lot of people come at this approach where they're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. This is something that I do. This is something how I help people, right? But that's not always the case. People find interest in two different things. They find interest in whether it's pleasurable, right? It's kind of catchy, right? It makes you want to, that thing that you learn in high school, that hook, that's what makes it interesting, right? That's number one. Number two is if somebody wants to learn something. So these are really the two main, and there's a couple other like smaller ones, but those are the two main reasons why people think something is interesting, right? That's the reason why we have a ton of people on YouTube that are mastering and blowing up on YouTube, such as names like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, you have Ty Lopez, you have all of these people that are exploding on YouTube because they make their lives extremely, extremely interesting. They don't live a normal life, and it took them a long time of creating content. It's not like they're just taking their video camera around and just, oh, this is how I do things, or this is how I do my homework, or that's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing. They are living an artificial life, or at least sprucing it up and putting a little gasoline on it to get a lot of attention. Now, I totally understand. This is not what most people want to do. It is probably one of the harder ways of actually making content, in my opinion, because you have to come out with this crazy amount of energy on every single video you're going to make. Doesn't matter if it's a blog, doesn't matter if it's a video, doesn't matter if it's a podcast. These consumables are all really, really interesting because they have to put in so much energy and time and creativity to get it to work, right? That is what makes it interesting. If somebody just, took around a camera with them, it's probably not going to be that interesting. Most people don't live the most crazy lives. Now, they might do interesting things, but their whole life isn't that interesting, sadly. On the flip side of things, the other way to be interesting is to keep people engaged, right? Just like you're watching this video, I'm teaching you something. You want to learn how to make your content more interesting so people continue to watch it. And this goes into a lot of what you probably learned in high school or middle school writing. This also goes into a lot of what you see in movie theaters and things like that. It's that what's happening next, right? I just got enough information. I have to watch the next thing. And on YouTube and blogging and podcasting, you never really want to give too little content, but you always want to give enough content that they're like, what's going on, right? So the last two videos I just made, it was kind of like a part one, part two series. I kind of did a broad brush stroke of what you could do, and then the second video as a follow-up kind of niched down a bit more as far as what you needed to do to take action. And that's kind of where this video falls in the line. This is kind of that third video in the series. The first one was kind of an intro, so whatever you want to consider this one. But people want to learn something that they are actively seeking, right? I dominate YouTube search. Most of my content is only found on YouTube search, and I'm okay with that. I don't make super viral content, but what I do make is super helpful content, where somebody could come on and they can come hang out with me or come learn from me and what I do at my six-figure agency and what I help other companies and businesses do. We go out and we create content that's interesting, that attracts your ideal buyer. Now you have to remember, what do you do that's interesting? What are you trying to create? What is your ultimate goal? Think about that goal and then work backwards, right? Who would want to buy that? Give you a great example. I'm currently working with a printing person, right? They can print anything. They can print those signs. They can print, my girlfriend has one that says like, if you're in the bathroom, text me, right? If you run out of toilet paper, live, love, laugh on the wall, all of those signs, right? But who buys those things? Other crafty people that might have what's called a Cricut, the little vinyl cutter, or they might have a full-blown machine that does that. But the people in the community are the ones buying that. They love that kind of stuff. They are going out and buying a Cricut or vinyl or other materials for that. And you, as the producer, can talk about different ways that people can use these different tools. Right? I'm the best example of this. I follow a channel called Project Farm, and they test all of these different tools against each other in the most ridiculous test that most people would never try. But it really shows the power and strength of the tool and what's quality versus what's not quality. I will never buy any of these tools, but when I am handy enough or when I have the space or time to go do these activities, I will then go and buy whatever he recommends, right? He made it super interesting. He always thought about things that I probably wouldn't ever do or wouldn't ever really need to know, especially with me not being in the construction world. But I find it very interesting at what he's doing because he's comparing. He's constantly providing this, oh, what would happen if I did this? Or what is the best drill? Or what is the best drill bit? Or what is the best chainsaw, right? These are all things that he's talking about. And when you can come out and think of different ways to make not only your content more interesting, but also go into it where you're asking a question that most people don't have the answer to. Heck, probably nobody has the answer to. And this is what helps you grow on whatever medium you're using. It doesn't matter if it's videos, doesn't matter if it's audio, doesn't matter if it's blogging. As long as you keep giving content and trying to compare, hey, what is this versus what is this? Why you might want to use this? Why you want to make your content more interesting? Because you want more views. More views usually equates to more people seeing your channel or your website or your podcast, which in turn equates to more money, right? That's why you're looking at this. How do you keep your stuff more interesting? Or you just want to personally grow, and heck, I'm happy to have you here with me. But these are the ways that you can progressively make your content more interesting. Think about all the things that people aren't doing, right? Yes, if you have a physical product, is it going to be a little more expensive? Of course it is. But you got to remember too, who is your target market, target audience? For me on this channel, it is small business owners or soon to be entrepreneurs. That's who I really want to help. That's who I want to help take out of their comfort zone and say, hey, this is everything that I've learned and I hope that this helps you because I couldn't find any of this when I first started. And that's what my goal is to help other people do. Crafty people, they buy from other crafty people. If you are interested in music, they are going to go listen to other musicians. It follows that suit of like people buy from people they know, like, and trust, right? And have similar interests. That's a way for people to like you and trust you, right? This is the process that people go down when they're shopping or they're finding you interesting or not. You have to make sure that your content is interesting. You have to make sure you put it up against challenges or tests or what's going on versus, one thing versus another. This is a really good example of compare and contrast. You have sparking that little bit of ingenuity to say, hey, I never really thought about that. How would that work? Or how does that work? Right? There's plenty of channels online that have, Mr. Beast gives away $100,000 or $1 million. Whatever that number is, it's super catchy. You're like, oh my God, he has more of a lifestyle channel, but there's also a lot of channels out there that do comparisons. I'm sure that everybody's seen those Facebook videos where it's, a welder and he's welding this pipe and you're like, whoa, what's that? Okay, how does that work? Okay, am I ever going to weld? I don't know, but did I find anything useful out of it? I don't know, but it was moderately entertaining because I never got to see behind the scenes because it all started with them making interesting content. And it didn't start out as interesting. Your first videos, blogs, podcasts, audio files might not be interesting. It might take a long time to get there, but doing it over and over and over again will give you the opportunity to make more interesting content, to keep people engaged longer, and ultimately you're going to grow as a person because you're going to say, oh, this is pretty cool. I can't wait to do, I'm currently traveling, but I can't wait to do a compare and contrast against a couple different websites that I've built that we're running SEO on, and depending on the industry and how they're reacting, I think it's super interesting, and I want to share that interesting information with an interested crowd, right? That's my goal. So this is how you keep your content more interesting. Think of different ways that you could compare. I'm sure you're probably driving down the road one day and you're like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I did that. Go be that person that does that. I wonder what would happen if I did this, or wonder what would happen if I did this. It might cost you money, but that's the cost of getting views. That is what you have to do. You might have to break something to understand how to fix it. Right? You could probably explain it, but if you don't actually do it, you might not know how to fix it. These are all different things that somebody is finding interesting. And then you can create content around that. People will consume it, and they'll come to you as the industry expert. So I hope this video helps. I hope you were interested in this video, and if you were, leave a comment down below if it was interesting or what you guys found value in. But this should at least give you the thought process to say, Well, if I do this, right, if you're sewing, well, what happens if you sew 5 layers of clothing together? Or what happens if you just let the sewing machine go without, running out of thread? Or, maybe it's a slow motion video of how a sewing machine works. I've never seen that. Whatever industry you're in, it doesn't quite matter. But think about the things that when you first got into it, what was really interesting to you? And then go make content about that. That is literally the process. And then over time, you might run out of some ideas for videos, but there's plenty of tools online for you to get video ideas, keyword ideas, and then you can progressively go after that. So I hope this video helps. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that little subscribe button, little notification bell. Feel free to join my Facebook group down below. Totally cool. We hang out, we do stuff in there. But other than that, I'll see you guys later.